Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Game Week 13 has only just ended, but Game Week 14 is a midweek deadline, so we need to get onto our Game Week 14 team selection and discuss our current plan with 3 of my players in my starting 11 flagged. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I'm recording this on Sunday evening, straight after the football has ended for Game Week 13, but like I said, it is a Tuesday deadline for Game Week 14, so we need to get on it. But very briefly, let's review Game Week 13. Of course, this is a game week I'm very happy to review because it's probably the best game week I've had in a long time. And I feel like not only have I made really bad decisions at points this season, and I've just not had my best season in general, but it does feel like I've also got quite unlucky to this point. But now this is the point when I say, what a lucky week this has been deciding to free hit. I actually spoke about going into the Game Week 13 deadline. I thought if we were looking like objectively at expected value from the two decisions, keeping my original team and triple captaining versus free hitting that team in Game Week 13, I thought they were virtually identical, like basically a 50-50 decision. I just about leant towards the free hit, but I felt like it could have backfired. I'll flash up on your screen a screenshot courtesy of FPL Gameweek. It looks like my free hit has gained me about 40 points. It doesn't deserve to ever gain you that much a chip, even when you play it in a bloody double game week or blank game week, let alone in a single game week when I've free hitted out really good players, because not only have I got lucky picking players that have hauled, and of course, thought process went into it, I'll give myself some credit here, but not only have I got lucky that the likes of Gakpo, Foden and Thiago have all got double digits, but on top of that, the players that I took out, pretty much all blanks. Like, apart from a Saka assist, Arsenal didn't do too much. Obviously, the Crystal Palace assets that I removed didn't do too much either. It just perfectly coincided that the free hitters this week, if you chose a team similar to this, got quite fortunate. So let me know how you did down below in the comments. But I wanted to acknowledge, I am not only say it's down to luck when I'm unlucky, but also when I'm lucky as well. And there was a massive slice of it this week. But it's 72 points for me, which has taken me from 1.8 million to 720k. That is a 1.1 million green arrow, which goes to show you all you need is one good week, but also the ranks are still tightly grouped together. So briefly going through the team, I went for double Aston Villa defence. Of course, that was another slice of luck. Wolves could have quite easily scored in that game, but I came away with a Martinez 7-pointer and Cash 6-pointer. Vandenberg got 2 points. Collins got 22 DEFCON in that game. Vandenberg decides not even to hit the threshold, but they conceded, and I think that's absolutely fine. You can't have everything on a free hit. I also had Nico O'Reilly, who got the assist, but of course lost his clean sheet. He finished, I think, on 9 DEFCON, so just off of getting a 6-pointer. And then also, because Mohamed Salah didn't play, and we'll discuss that in a second, I actually had Savona come off the bench from Nottingham Forest, who I thought was a fun punt as my first sub. I can't think of many other better defenders that I could have chosen that I was actually considering as a 4.5 defender that could have auto-subbed on. Like, I was never picking a Brighton defender. I couldn't have gone for an Aston Villa defender because I was already tripled up. So I don't really mind that Savona only got the 1-pointer. And I guess let's discuss Mohamed Salah not only being benched for either the first or second time since like 2024. Remember, it was also against West Ham that I think he was last benched, but didn't get a single minute. I mean, that is remarkable. So if the rest of the free hit didn't go as well as it did for me, that would have been an absolute killer. Because in all fairness, Mohamed Salah was one of the main reasons I wanted to free hit, because it just felt like sooner or later Liverpool are going to click. Sooner or later, surely Salah clicks. But this has been coming for a little while now. People have been calling for not only Salah, but also Gakpo to be benched for a long time. And actually going into this game on the Sunday, I saw loads of rumours that Gakpo could even be rested too. But obviously, luckily, Salah did miss out, yes, but Gakpo goes and delivers a 14-pointer. It was looking okay, a single assist, but then he goes and scores a last-minute goal. And I guess last-minute goals is the theme of this week, because Phil Foden did exactly the same. Now, I chose Gakpo and Foden because they have good underlying data and they have the ability to haul. So this is where I will give myself credit. I'm choosing high-upside players, but considering both of them have largely stunk it up in FPL and in terms of output recently, again, to get 29 points is ridiculous. Phil Foden is just a brilliant footballer. I've been saying this for 3 seasons now. If I ever get a chance to own Phil Foden, especially on a free hit, I always do that. So yeah, 29 points from those two basically was what made the week. Kevin Schade, really disappointed. He was never a pick that I was entirely convinced by, but it just felt weird only going for Thiago against Burnley. It was his teammate, Dango Watara, who not only outscored Sharda, but got more minutes. The main reason I chose Sharda wasn't because I thought he was better, it's because he basically plays 90 minutes every game, whereas Dango always gets early subs. Dango plays the full game, and Sharda gets an early sub this week, so it was difficult to predict there, but yeah, Sharda blank. Thiago Brace, I'll hold my hands up. I actually didn't love Thiago as a pick this week. I thought it was all going to just perfectly coincide with a Thiago blank. Everyone hyping him up, scoring loads of penalties. Thiago's going to blank. I mean, he got another penalty, which I think is like his 7th of the season or something ridiculous, and also scored from open play. So I wasn't that convinced. I was never going to not put him in the team, but I definitely would not have bought him if I wasn't free hitting. I said it was an option, but I knew in my heart I just wouldn't have done it. And he goes and gets 13 pointers. So again, a little bit lucky there. And then Erling Haaland blanks. And I guess that finishes off the luck for this week, because I was going to triple captain if I didn't free hit. And I feel bad because I told everyone, if you have your triple captain, you should absolutely play it. And this is just FPL. Like, for him to blank in a game like this, like, I expected him to get the Foden-esque score, but FPL is unpredictable sometimes. So apologies for the advice of I would triple captain. I would have absolutely done it if I didn't free hit. But I guess this is the issue of triple captaining in a single game week. You only get that one chance. So yeah, that's how the week went. 72 points. Obviously delighted to be in the top 1 million finally and hoping I can kick on. The issue is I'd quite like to keep this team here, because when you see my team for Game Week 14, it's not doing too well. So let me know how you did for Game Week 13. Let's now move on to Game Week 14 and discuss some of these flag players. So guys, moving on to Game Week 14, I have 1 free transfer, 2.8 million in the bank, and 3 flagged players firstly to deal with only 1 free transfer. And also at least 2 or 3 players that aren't flagged that I think could be major rotation risks midweek. As much as Game Week 13 went about as good as it could have done for me, Game Week 14 does feel like it could be a disaster in the making, but you never know. We shall see. All you need is a little bit of luck and a couple of players to haul, and it could be absolutely fine. There is definitely a possibility that I take a hit this week, and I'd love to know down below, once you've seen my team, once you look at my transfer plans, would you take a hit? But also, sometimes being a bit patient. I actually have bench options this week. Immediately, you can see some players at home there on the bench. Maybe just relying on players with slightly weaker fixtures, but that are playing at home that you know will play, might be better than taking the hit, especially with players like Senesi, who's flagged. Obviously, he'll be returning for Game Week 15. So these are the things I need to think about, but we'll discuss it all once we've seen the team. So let's start with Nick Pope and Dubravka as my 2 goalkeepers. Obviously, there have been rumours across the past few weeks that Nick Pope will be replaced by Ramsdale very soon if he keeps making mistakes. Of course, he continued to make mistakes. And so there were suggestions that Nick Pope was going to be replaced with Ramsdale for Game Week 13. Of course, he was, but Nick Pope didn't travel with the squad. I think the official report was a small groin injury, but I am seeing a lot of people say, which kind of makes sense, they just wanted to take him out of the limelight for a second. Taking him on the bench, you can imagine all the cameras zooming in on him. It doesn't really help the situation. So reporting it as an injury is probably the kind of thing to do. Leave him at home, and then maybe he'll be back in the squad for Game Week 14. And even if he is then on the bench, they can say, oh, it's because of the injuries being eased back in, etc., etc. So, I don't know. He could genuinely be injured, but regardless, I would be super surprised if at least for Game Week 14, Pope is back. And as long as Ramsdale performs at a decent level, it probably wouldn't make sense to then put Pope back in net. So, for now, I'm treating this as it doesn't really matter what is going on with Nick Pope. I probably don't have him available. So this week, if I don't make a goalkeeper transfer, I've got Dubravka against Crystal Palace at home, which in all fairness isn't that bad. Do I think he'll keep a clean sheet? Absolutely not. I expect Palace to score, but Palace have played a lot of games. They genuinely looked really knackered against Manchester United. I think that was the main reason United won that game, was just the energy levels look so different between the two teams. And we know that Burnley are much better at home. This could be a low-scoring game. I also expect Dubravka to make saves, so I'd rather not have Dubravka in net. But when you see the rest of my team, I do have other transfers that are probably more pressing. I wouldn't be surprised if this week I just keep Nick Pope, start him, and if he doesn't play, I get Dubravka. I'd love to know what you think on that. And if you think, Ross, I would just take a -4 hit and sell your goalkeeper and get it done, it's probably a transfer I'm going to have to make. But remember, between 15 and 16, we get topped up to 5 free transfers. That feels like a good use of my transfers then. Could I get away with playing Dubravka against Crystal Palace and Newcastle? Maybe. Moving on to more flag players, as you can see, I also have Senesi, who is now suspended after picking up his 5th yellow card. This was not the week to go and do that, Senesi, because I really needed you. On your screen, you'll be able to see, actually, I'll do a screen recording so that you can see it. So The players that are currently on 4 yellow cards, courtesy of FootMob, and by the way, FootMob have sponsored this team selection video as always. They are just perfect for finding out whatever information and news you need like this. So there is a section, if you go into the Premier League, you can look at players that are on 4 yellow cards and that are at risk of getting a suspension like Senesi. In terms of notable players, Daniel Munoz is on 4 yellows. He's a player that we'll discuss today I could buy, but he could very soon, like Senesi, pick up that 5th yellow. He decided not to do it in Game Week 13, so he is available. Dominic Soboslai has been on 4 yellows for a few weeks now. He's also at risk. Donnarumma, by the way, is on 4 yellows as a goalkeeper. Granit Xhaka, you've got Kevin Schade, Nathan Collins. You can look through this yourself. And also maybe check out players that are on 3 yellows. I wouldn't advise not buying a player because they're on 3 yellows, but that might change your decision slightly if it's a genuine 50-50. But like I said, do check out FootMob for all of the latest news, live scores, DEFCON tracking, and also stuff like this is really, really useful. All of that to say, I think this isn't a bad time to sell Senesi. He's flagged. He's out. I can't play him this week. He then goes into Chelsea and United. And yes, he plays Burnley at home after that. But Bournemouth's defence have been not particularly convincing, let's say. And he is very good for DEFCON and he does get the odd assist and he is good in the air. Like, I do think Senesi's a good asset, but I also don't mind the idea of selling him. If I don't sell Senesi this week and don't make a defender transfer at all, I do think I'm in a little bit of trouble. And the reason I say that is not only on my bench do I have Anderson against Manchester City, which is at home, by the way, it's not the end of the world, and Rodon against Chelsea. So both home fixtures, but not very good ones. But I also have Richards and Timber. And I think both Richards and Timber are at risk of being rotated midweek. Richards in particular, we've seen quite a lot in their games in Europe, Crystal Palace. He is rotated. He's the one defender which you feel like isn't like fully nailed on and could potentially be switched out midweek. And it is Burnley. No disrespect to Burnley. It's a game that Palace think they should probably win, you'd imagine. Is this the sort of game where you could bench Richards? Maybe. I still think he starts for what it's worth, but it's a risk. And Timber, again, I'll flash on your screen the performance from against Chelsea. By the way, he was fantastic. 0.3 XG in that game. But he also played 90 minutes. And if you watch the Chelsea-Arsenal game, it was quite a physically demanding game. Like, Timber was getting kicked left, right, and centre, bombing up and down the pitch. He played really well, I think. But in general, it was quite a tough game. So could he potentially be switched out midweek? Also, yes. So I've got a flag defender, 2 players that I think are at risk of rotation, and then 2 defenders on the bench who will start for their teams, playing at home for decent defences, but also having really tricky fixtures. I think this is an absolute state. Nick Pope, Dubravka, Senesi, Anderson, Rodon, Timber, Richards. So what do I do here? You could say just switch your goalkeeper out, fine, but then I'm going to have to play Anderson this week, which isn't the end of the world. Or you say just switch out Senesi, but then I've also got to play one of Pope or Dubravka. Or I could make both for a -4 hit, but then as you'll see when we move on to the attack, I've also got Ismaila Sarr. So this isn't a good situation to be in. Maybe once we've seen the whole team, you'll get a bit more of a picture about what I'm planning right now. I just need to hope Richards and Timber start. If I sell Senesi, great. If not, hopefully Anderson comes in with some DEFCON and maybe gets a miraculous clean sheet. But that's the defence. Let's move on to the midfield. So guys, moving on to the midfield 5. As things stand, I have Njai against Bournemouth away, Sarr against Burnley away, Semenyo against Everton at home, Saka against Brentford at home, and Enzo against Leeds away. We're going to discuss all of them, but obviously the big news is that Ismaila Sarr is injured and is almost definitely, by the sounds of it, not available for Game Week 14, which is a shame because it's Burnley away, and I think in general he's been so disappointing. You feel like he's been on the cusp of a big return, and this could have been the week, despite it being a midweek game. You always imagine his minutes will be pretty good, but I think the amount of minutes that he's been playing has obviously caught up on him. He's currently not actually flagged in FPL at the time of me recording. I've put a yellow flag on him. I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes orange or red pretty soon. The quote from Glasner after the game, and of course maybe it was just pessimistic, but it didn't look good, and we did see him on crutches in a boot. He said, "We will have to assess him further, but the ankle is quite swollen, so I think he will miss a few games. Maybe we won't see him again before AFCON." Obviously, we're going to have 2 deadlines within the next week, Game Week 14 and 15. Then he goes into Manchester City. Then it's AFCON anyway. So I do believe Ismaila Sarr is probably the easiest sell of the week. Now, there is a world in which you could keep him if you want to play a 4 at the back and just assess for more information. But I just don't think that's necessary with the fixtures, with AFCON, and with everything that we know right now. So Ismaila Sarr does become a sell. In terms of the other midfielders, I was actually looking at maybe selling Iliman Ndiaye, because I've got 2.8 million in the bank. He's obviously off to AFCON himself. And the output from him hasn't been what you would want. Like, Dewsbury Hall right now looks like the better Everton midfielder to own. And if I do want to upgrade, I think he was a decent position to do so. That being said, given that I'm not going to have Senesi for this week, so there's no clash there now, given that he's on penalties and his minutes are usually good, I think I'm pretty happy to have him for this week. I'm not expecting too much from him, but in a midweek where I'm worried about a lot of other players being rotated, it's pretty nice to have someone that usually does start and gets around 80 minutes. Now, he might get a slightly earlier sub. I don't think he's the fittest guy in the world. He's not someone that's always getting like 95 minutes per game. But again, for now, with the other issues I have, Iliman Ndiaye is fine. Semenyo, happy to have as well in the same game. Hopefully one of them can do really well, if not both of them. Maybe it's an absolute goal fest, and that would suit me quite well. So Semenyo will be staying for the time being. Of course, he is not going to AFCON, and he has Burnley at home in a few weeks too. So I'll probably keep him till at least that fixture. Bukayo Saka, very happy to have back. In hindsight, probably should have put him in the free hit ahead of Mohamed Salah, and very happy to have him in the team against Brentford at home. Do I have a slight concern that Bukayo Saka will be rotated? For the same reason as Timber, yes. Again, I'll flash on the screen a picture of his performance against Chelsea. I think he was probably one of their brightest sparks, and he was the one that looked most likely to help them get anything from that game. However, he did play 90 minutes and did get kicked a lot, as he always does, especially by Cucurella at the start of the game. He does often start in the Champions League, but he does sometimes get, like, I think against Bayern Munich, he had 68 minutes. So my prediction right now, and this could be drastically off, he could be on the bench, you could get 90, but I think he probably starts this game and gets subbed off between 60 and 70 mins. What that means is I'm not looking at Bukayo Saka for captaincy, unless we get some sort of confirmation that he's going to get more than that, which I just don't think we do. But I'm also not selling him. I think, you know what, even if we found out that he was benched, I don't think I could sell him either. I just want to keep him for the medium to long term. So yeah, Bukayo Saka is a player that will be staying in the team, but I don't feel confident enough in his minutes that I will give him the armband. And then the final player, Enzo Fernandez, I do feel pretty confident in this man's minutes. Even with Cole Palmer coming back, even with it being a midweek deadline, unless there is an issue that we don't know about, he is the sort of guy that can comfortably play 90 minutes on a regular basis. And I think Leeds away, with the way Leeds have been playing recently, although a little bit better against Man City, I do think this is still a good fixture. Now, Cole Palmer being back in the squad and at least available to play some minutes does change things in terms of his position that you'd expect him to play. He wouldn't be on penalties if Palmer's on the pitch. But I'm not expecting Palmer to get particularly significant minutes in against Leeds away. I think he's going to be eased in quite slowly back into the team, which suits me given that I have Enzo Fernandez right now. All of that to say, even if I had issues with Ndiaye, Semenyo, Saka and Enzo, given that Ismaila Sarr is flagged and probably not going to play, given I've got Senesi suspended and Nick Pope and Dubravka as my goalkeeper options, even again, if I had issues with these four, I wouldn't be able to do anything with only one free transfer anyway. So Ndiaye, Semenyo, Saka, Enzo will be staying. Ismaila Sarr is almost definitely going to be my one free transfer out. It's about if I probably combine that with a defender or goalkeeper transfer. I'm not going to be making 3 for a -8. It may be that I just sell Sarr, suck up that it might be Dubravka and Anderson coming in for Pope and Senesi, and just hope that given that they're playing at home, they could get me something. So that's the midfield 5. Let's look at the 3 forwards and then discuss exactly which players I'm looking at potentially buying for Game Week 14. So moving on to my 3 forwards. As of right now, I'm in a 3-5-2 with Mateta and Erling Haaland, who does currently have the captain's armband, as my front 2, and Krupi as my 3rd sub. I do think there is a world in which Krupi starts, given that it's a midweek game. Maybe he'll get some minutes. Maybe if as we approach the deadline, I think there is a good chance of that, I might move him up the bench order. And I guess there is a world in which I make a defender transfer, don't sell Sarr and try and play Krupi instead. But given how many exciting options there are to move to, given my money in the bank, I think it makes sense to just sell Sarr, which means Krupi won't be getting near the 11. But yeah, he might slowly make his way towards that first sub position. Let me know if you think he could get a start in this game, especially with Evan Nilsson absolutely stinking it up in Game Week 13. I think Krupi deserves to be starting right now. Anyway, front 2, Mateta Haaland. Mateta is one of the other players that I'm super worried about in terms of minutes. Like realistically, in my 11, it's Richards, Mateta, Timber and Saka. It's the 2 Palace boys and the 2 Arsenal boys. They're the ones that I'm worried about because they just play so many minutes and they're also so important to their teams that I do worry. Now, again, as of right now, I think Richards, Timber, Saka and Mateta do probably start, but I'm not expecting too many minutes. I think in favour of Mateta, well, firstly, not in favour, he did play 90 minutes in Game Week 13, which isn't fantastic. I was kind of hoping he'd get an early sub, but Nketiah did get significant minutes because I think he was actually the one that came on for Ismaila Sarr. So yes, Mateta did get a lot, but Nketiah also got some. So I don't think necessarily, given Nketiah has not played tons of minutes himself, he'll now start ahead of Mateta, but I wouldn't be surprised if we only get 50, 60 minutes from him. And it also wouldn't be hugely surprising if he does sit out on the bench for this one. So let me know how you feel at this early stage on Mateta's minutes. But again, unless we get a leak, which I don't think we will, given that I'll just double check, but I'm pretty sure they're not the early kickoff. They are not the early kickoff. They are playing on the Wednesday. We're not going to find out, and I don't think, given all the other issues I have, that I'm likely to sell Mateta right now. On Erling Haaland, will I captain Erling Haaland? I think so. Bukayo Saka, I just don't trust these minutes enough. No one else in the team, I think, has a good enough fixture to consider. And maybe Semenyo against Everton, I suppose, but I'm not there. Mateta's minutes I have the same concern about. And then if I go and buy someone like a Bruno Fernandes, which we'll discuss is a possibility, I don't trust Man United is the issue. I trust his minutes for sure, but his output has been a bit inconsistent. And whilst he has normally quite a high floor because he can get DEFCON, assist, goals, I just feel like Erling Haaland, even against Fulham away, is a better captaincy option. So that's where I stand right now. I probably will, at least at this early stage, I think, give Haaland the armband. So that's the team ahead of Game Week 14. Basically, unless a player is... Well, the players that aren't flagged, they're just not going to be issues for me this week, which leaves Pope, Senesi, and Sarr. So those are the three players on the chopping block with one free transfer, 2.8 million in the bank. Let's now discuss which players I'm looking at bringing in and how many transfers I might make. So guys, moving on to my possible transfers. As I said, one free transfer, 2.8 million to use. Let's discuss what I can do. So options 1 and 2, I would say, are quite unlikely now, given that Sarr is almost definitely out for Game Week 14. Option 1 was to just sell Senesi straight up, and option 2 was to just sell Nick Pope. If I was to sell Senesi, I've obviously got lots of money, and my defence doesn't have that much money invested in comparison to some other people, so I think I would be looking at some of the premium assets. Now, Saliba obviously wasn't in the squad for Arsenal, so I changed him out on this, and I put Calafiori in, especially given he only got 45 minutes in Game Week 13. I think he was subbed off due to the yellow card. I've not seen any reports after the game, but I don't know if I want to take a risk on Calafiori when I think his minutes could be managed. Nico O'Reilly is really interesting to me. A defender that I would love to go out and buy. I think he's really good in terms of value. But again, does he start in 14 and 15? I'm just not fully there with it. Although I do think he does because he's young. Doesn't look like he needs a break. And they've not got tons of options in that position. And I think when Pep likes a player, he's happy to play them quite a lot. So I think Nico O'Reilly plays both. But there is some doubt there, I suppose. Cucurella, another player that we have seen rotated at points, so not completely rotation-proof, but he's fantastic. I think the Chelsea defence are pretty good, and I think the fixtures coming up are a bit of a mixed bag for Chelsea, but overall quite positive. So Cucurella is an option. And then I still think Virgil van Dijk's an absolutely fine option. I said that on the free hit, and they get a clean sheet. And I do look at the fixtures coming up over the next 10 to 12 weeks. In terms of defensive fixtures, Liverpool probably do have the best of the bunch, so I wouldn't even rule out going for someone like a Virgil van Dijk. So that's an option. Option 2, like I said, is selling Nick Pope. The 4 goalkeepers which I've highlighted here are Raya, Donnarumma, Verbruggen, and Sells. You could also look at Petrovic. You've got other like Pickford as an option. I don't really think that any of them hugely stand out. Probably David Raya makes the most sense, but again, it's always 6 points with him. He actually got a save point today, but remember that the style of the game, even so, I think he only just snuck the save point. So I think overall, Raya is fine, steady, but I don't know if I could bring myself to go and transfer Raya into my team. But Donnarumma, Verbruggen, Sells, I think they'll make some saves. Like I say, the other options too. But given the Sarr injury news, I think I have to sell Ismaila Sarr. So of course I could sell Ismaila Sarr and also sell Senesi or Pope, depending how much money I have in the bank. But I think the Sarr transfer has to come first in terms of priority. The 4 players that I've highlighted that I could transfer in, and there are more, but these are the 4 that I've been really looking at. Bruno Fernandes, and I know how people feel about Bruno, but again, 10 points. He finished on 11 DEFCON, could have been a 12-pointer. He's great for bonus, great assist threat, okay goal threat, does get DEFCON, probably on penalties, and most importantly, more than anything, over this busy period when we have midweek deadlines and we're worried about players' fitness, Bruno Fernandes is always fit, always available, and always playing. And that is such a big win right now, especially when I look at the rest of my team. He just feels like such a steady option, even if he doesn't return. I just know that I can rely on him to at least get appearance points, the odd DEFCON, and maybe an assist from a set piece. So I really like Fernandes, but he does use pretty much all of my available money. I think it leaves me with like 0.5 million in the bank or something like that. I think Phil Foden also is one of the more expensive options. I don't know that I could bring myself to go Foden over Fernandes. Again, given what I've just said, going into this period with a midweek deadline and then game week 15 straight after, I even worry, given even though he's been so good, Phil Foden, and his minutes have been pretty impeccable over the last 8 game weeks or so, I still worry about his minutes. And I think I would struggle again to buy Foden over Fernandes. And then cheaper options, Yankuba Minta has been ridiculous. Like every single week, he seems to get an assist. He's up to, is it 8 assists? I think at least 8 FPL assists, I'm sure. Which blew my mind, really, because when I looked at his expected assist, it's, 7 assists. But when I looked at his expected assist, it's 2. So I'm not saying expected assist is the strongest metric, but maybe we do need to start seeing a little bit more goal threat from him. But I still rate him as an FPL option. And then Elliot Anderson just continues to be really good. Defcon bonus, attacking threat, minutes are always impeccable. I really like Elliot Anderson if I wanted to go there, but I have all this money in the bank. And if I go for Elliot Anderson, I don't know where I spend it. So I keep coming back to Bruno Fernandes. And maybe there is a bit of bias there. Maybe it's me wanting to own Bruno. I think a lot of people will captain Bruno this week. I'm, again, not sure I'll go there. But it feels, every week I do feel like Manchester United do create chances. And I kind of do want to get in on that attack. Obviously, Mbeumo's off to AFCON. Cunha, I think, will still be a doubt for Game Week 14. So it's Fernandes. So Sarr to Fernandes does feel like a transfer that I'm likely to make and that I want to make. I just wanted to bring to your attention another option then, or another 2 options, which involve 2 transfers and a -4 hit. So the first is actually, because I sell Sarr, I free up my 3rd Palace spot. And you guys know how much I love Munoz. One player I don't worry about their minutes with ever is Munoz. He always plays, and he usually gets 90 minutes too. He is such a fitness monster. So I could pivot from Sarr to Munoz with my 3rd Crystal Palace spot, which means Senesi to Munoz. But I could not afford, sadly, Sarr to Fernandes. Because I think if I could afford Fernandes and Munoz in for Senesi and Sarr, it would be pretty easy for me. But I'm about 0.6 million short of that. So what I would probably do is Sarr to Minte. So Senesi to Munoz, Sarr to Minte. That's a really nice set of 2 players to be bringing in. And it feels like the hit would be justified in that case. If I want to still do Sarr to Fernandes, the one player that I can afford for Senesi, because I think it gives me 5.3 million or 5.4 million in the bank, is actually O'Reilly. So I couldn't get like Calafiori, Cucurella, Van Dijk, but O'Reilly I could afford. So Senesi to O'Reilly, Sarr to Fernandes. So those are your options. Option 1, just sell Senesi. Option 2, just sell Pope. Option 3, probably Sarr to Bruno. Or option 4A, Minter and Munoz in for Senesi and Sarr. Option 4B is O'Reilly and Fernandes in for Senesi and Sarr. Do I need to take the -4 hit basically for a defender? That's what I need to think about myself. If I go back to my team then, if I were to just do Sarr to Bruno, the front 7 would be Ndiaye, Bruno, Semenyo, Saka, Enzo, Mateta and Haaland. That's fantastic. The defence would then be likely Dubravka in goal, Richards against Burnley, then Anderson or Rodon for their home fixture, and Timber. I think I can get away with that for 1 week. Dubravka and one of Anderson and Rodon isn't perfect, but I'm not that sure that O'Reilly against Fulham away outscores Anderson by 4 or more points to justify making the transfer. So I think I might end up leaving it. And then obviously I do have Senesi coming back in. It might be that I end up selling him anyway, but I have that option available to me to maybe keep him. So that's where my head's at right now, but I normally don't have to record a team selection on a Sunday night. So forgive me if I change my opinion. Forgive me if I've said anything completely out of place here, but that's roughly what I'm thinking right now. I think it's time to get Bruno Fernandes back into my team, and then I will be okay, especially at least with the attack ahead of Game Week 14. Let me know what your plans are, and let me know what you think I should do as well. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 14 team selection ahead of the Tuesday evening deadline. There will be a deadline decisions video probably on Tuesday morning, and Tuesday evening we'll be doing a deadline stream as well. So see you there on Tuesday for those 2 videos. Make sure to check out FootMob. There is a link down below to download it for free. It really supports me if you click that link and download, but also I highly recommend it as the best football companion app for free. But until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.